the man that taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey. The story of Nearest Green.
Nathan Nearest Green, who was a African-American head distiller, or today more commonly referred to as a master distiller, was born into slavery and emancipated after the American Civil War. He is known for teaching his distilling techniques to Jack Daniel, founder of the Jack Daniels Tennessee Whiskey Distillery. Green was hired as the first master distiller for Jack Daniel Distillery, and he is the first African American master distiller on record in the United States. Sometime in the 1850s, when Jack Daniel was just a boy, he went to work for Dan Call, a preacher, grocer, and distiller. According to company lore, the preacher was a busy man, and when he saw promise in young Jack, he taught him how to run his whiskey still. However, in June of 2016, the New York Times published a story identifying Daniel's true teacher as Green, who was one of Call's slaves. The newspaper reported that historians and locals have known the Green story for decades. Green's story, according to the article, built on oral history and the thinnest of archival trails, may never be proved completely. Documentation shows that Green was owned by a firm known as Landis & Green, who likely hired him out to Call for a fee. Green was one of the few enslaved people who stayed on to work with Call after the Emancipation Proclamation. When introducing Green to 8-year-old Jack Daniel, Call is quoted as saying, "Uncle Nearest is the best whiskey maker that I know of." Call reportedly said to Green, "I want Jack to become the world's best whiskey distiller, if he wants to be. And I want you to help me teach him." Slavery ended with the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in 1865, and Daniel opened his distillery a year later and immediately employed two of Green's sons, George and Eli Green. In all, at least 3 of Green's sons were part of Jack Daniel Distillery staff: George, Ed, and Eli Green. In 2016, the Nearest Green Distillery was founded by Fawn Green, the same lady that founded the Nearest Green Foundation, a non-profit organization. Thanks guys. If it's more interesting, you can find it here.